The map with a missing continent. We think we know the story of us. The map of human evolution seems familiar. Its great continents charted, its coastlines well-defined. We see the figures in the grand procession of time. Australopithecus, the hopeful ape that first stood tall on the savannah. Homo habilis, the toolmaker, whose mind first saw a weapon hidden inside a stone. Homo erectus, the fire-bringer, the great wanderer who first left Africa and tasted the wider world. Then the Neanderthals, our rugged, cold-adapted cousins. And finally us, Homo sapiens, the wise man, the lone survivor. It is a neat and tidy story, a linear progression from a simple past to our complex present. It is a comforting story, one that places us firmly at the pinnacle of a long, arduous climb. But the Earth does not always tell tidy stories. Sometimes, deep within its hidden, silent chambers, it keeps secrets that defy our simple maps. Secrets that wait in the dark for millennia. What if the map we have been reading is not just incomplete, but fundamentally wrong? What if there is a vast, uncharted continent on that map, a ghost lineage hiding in plain sight? A lost relative so strange, so paradoxical, it forces us to question the very definition of what it means to be human? This is the story of a skeleton that did just that. A skeleton that was hidden in a place of impossible darkness. A skeleton that we almost missed. And a skeleton that is tearing up the old maps and forcing us to redraw the first chapter of the human story. A Whisper from the Darkour story does not begin with a famous scientist in a sun-scorched desert, chipping away at ancient rock. It begins with two local cavers in South Africa, Rick Hunter and Stephen Tucker, pushing the boundaries of a known cave system called Rising Star. This was not a gentle network of tourist-friendly caverns with handrails and electric lights. This was a deep, dangerous, and complex labyrinth of passages, a journey into the planet's memory, a place of absolute blackness, where the only sound is your own breathing, the only light, the one you carry with you. Deep inside, exploring a section of the cave few had ever ventured into, they found something new. A narrow, vertical chute, a crack in the floor of the earth, leading straight down into a darkness that seemed to have no end. They called it the Dragon's Back. It was a terrifying drop, only 7.5 inches wide in some places, a one-way journey into the unknown. Driven by the irresistible curiosity of the explorer, they squeezed through, descending 40 feet into a chamber no human had ever entered. They named it the Dinaledi Chamber, the Chamber of Stars. And when the beams of their headlamps swept across the floor, the reason for the name became clear. The floor was not covered in stars. It was covered in bones, hundreds of them, glinting in the light. And they knew instantly. This was not an animal den. This was not a predator's lair. This was something else, something profound. They had found a tomb, hidden for an unimaginable length of time. And the occupants were not animals. They were human, or something very, very like it. A mission impossible. The news of the discovery reached the desk of paleoanthropologist Lee Berger. He understood its potential significance immediately, but it came with a seemingly insurmountable problem. How do you excavate a chamber that you cannot physically get into? The world's leading paleoanthropologists, the seasoned excavators with decades of experience, were all by definition too large to fit through that tiny vertical chute. The fossils were trapped, a treasure chest locked in a vault no one could open. We had almost missed them, not because they were eroded by time, but because they were guarded by a simple matter of space. So Lee Berger did something the field had never seen before, something brilliant and unorthodox. He put out a call on social media, a global casting call for a very specific set of skills. He was looking for trained scientists with advanced degrees in archaeology or paleoanthropology. They had to be experienced cavers, comfortable with tight spaces and sheer drops in total darkness. And the final crucial requirement: they had to be small and slender enough to fit through a 7.5-inch opening. The world responded. From a pool of dozens of qualified applicants, he chose an all-female team of 6. They became known as the Underground Astronauts. They were a unique blend of high-level intellect and pure physical courage. They were the only ones on Earth who could undertake this mission. And so, one by one, they squeezed through the Dragon's Back into the Chamber of Stars on a quest to retrieve the bones of our forgotten relatives. The paradox in bone. What they brought back to the surface, piece by painstaking piece, was a shock to the scientific world. The team recovered over 1,500 fossils, representing at least 15 individuals, infants, children, young adults, and the elderly. A whole community. It was a species no one had ever seen before. Berger and his team named it Homo Naledi. Naledi meaning star in the local Sotho language, and Homo Naledi was a living paradox, a mosaic creature, an anatomical Frankenstein that didn't fit anywhere on our neat, linear family tree. It had some astonishingly primitive features, like a throwback to a much earlier time. Its brain was tiny, no larger than an orange, barely a third the size of our own. Its shoulders were built for climbing, shaped more like those of an ape. Its fingers were long and elegantly curved, a clear adaptation for moving through trees. But then attached to the same body were some strikingly modern traits. Its wrists and hands were remarkably human-like, clearly adapted for fine manipulation and sophisticated tool use. A toolmaker's hand on a climber's arm. Its legs were long and slender, and its feet were virtually identical to our own. A perfect platform for a long-striding, efficient, human-like walk. This was a creature that could walk the earth just like we do, but could also disappear into the trees. At first, scientists assumed it must be incredibly old, a missing link from the dawn of our genus, perhaps 2 million years old. But when the dating results finally came back, after years of meticulous work, the paradox deepened into a profound mystery. The bones were not 2 million years old. They were shockingly, impossibly young, between 236,000 and 335,000 years old. This was a bombshell. It meant this small-brained, primitive-looking creature was alive at the very same time the first Homo sapiens were emerging elsewhere in Africa. It was not our ancient ancestor. It was our contemporary, a ghost species that had survived for millions of years, hiding from science, walking alongside our own lineage. The unthinkable hypothesis. But the strangest, most world-altering part of the story was yet to come. The ultimate question remained: how did the bones of 15 individuals, from babies to old adults, get into this incredibly remote, pitch-black, almost inaccessible chamber? The team of scientists became a team of detectives, testing every hypothesis. Were they dragged here by a predator, like a leopard or a saber-toothed cat? No. Of the 1,500 fossils, there was not a single tooth mark. Were they washed here by a flood swept down into the cave? No. The tiny, delicate bones of the inner ear were found perfectly preserved. This would be impossible in a flood. And the sediments showed no evidence of flowing water. Did they live here? Impossible. The chamber is a dead end in total permanent darkness. There were no tools found with them. No animal bones from their meals, no trace of fire. The team had eliminated the impossible. And as the great fictional detective Sherlock Holmes once said, when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. The only hypothesis that remained was unthinkable. Homo Naledi put them there, on purpose. This small-brained creature, this ghost from our deep past, was deliberately carrying its dead. It was navigating a dangerous, pitch-black labyrinth, squeezing through a treacherous vertical chute, all to deposit the bodies of its companions in this silent, hidden, sacred chamber. This was not just carcass disposal. The journey was too difficult, too risky for that. This implies something far more profound. It implies ritual. It implies a complex emotional life. It implies an understanding of mortality, of loss. It suggests a mind capable of abstract thought, of seeing a world beyond the immediate physical realm. It suggests grief. This was a behavior we arrogantly thought was reserved for us, and maybe the Neanderthals with our massive, energy-hungry brains. But here was a creature with a brain the size of an orange, seemingly engaging in one of the most deeply symbolic, deeply human acts imaginable. Rewriting the book. The discovery of Homo Naledi is not just adding a new name to a list. It is fundamentally rewriting the book of human evolution. It proves that our family tree was never a straight line. It was a braided river, with many different streams of humanity flowing alongside each other for millennia, some merging, others simply sinking into the sand and disappearing forever. It proves that the evolution of the human body was not a simple package deal. It was a messy, creative process. A modern foot could be attached to a primitive shoulder. A tool-making hand could be part of a body that still felt at home in the trees. And most importantly, it shatters the long-held dogma that the evolution of complex symbolic behavior was tied directly to a large brain. We have always equated brain size with destiny. A bigger brain meant more intelligence, more consciousness, more humanity. Homo naledi holds up its small skull and asks, "Are you sure?" The darkness we haven't seen. The story of Homo naledi is a profound lesson in humility. It is a discovery not just of ancient bones, but of our own modern ignorance. It reminds us that the map of our past is dangerously incomplete. This incredible history-changing discovery was not made in a well-known fossil bed being scoured by scientists. It was hidden deep underground, a secret we almost missed, a secret that history did not want to give up easily. It took a unique mission and a special team of explorers to even find the door. It makes you wonder, how many other chambers are there? In how many other caves? How many other lost cousins are waiting in a silence that has lasted for 250,000 years? The story of who we are is not a finished book. We have only read the first few pages, and the most revolutionary chapters may still be locked away, waiting for someone brave enough and small enough to squeeze through the darkness. Subscribe to Epoch Echoes, where the map of our past is always being redrawn.